Hey everyone, it's Flying Kraken here, and today we're going to be talking about post-nerf Ramp Druid list. Ever since they announced the nerfs last week, I've been deep in the think tank, thinking about how Druid can evolve going forward, and how the innovations of the deck can move forward. I think that Ramp Druid can still live, the tools to live are still there, it's just its inevitability from Kazaku-san is not there anymore, and we will have to get creative if we want to win games. And many of y'all may be asking, if you haven't already seen, nerfs will be going live the day this video goes out. They will be going to many classes, but the class that I specifically want to talk about today, as we already talked about, is Druid, Ramp Druid in particular. The two cards that got in nerfs were Kazaku-san and Miracle Growth. This intro is just to get people acquainted who didn't already know. Kazaku-san will be changed to Battlecry. If you played for the Dragons this game, craft a custom deck of treasures. This is a change because Ramp Druid has had an inevitability that even control decks could not beat, and I think that they really wanted to stop Druid from only being beat by pure aggro like Demon Hunter basically. And Miracle Growth, the 8 mana, slows down the deck a little bit. I think that's still very much playable. You won't be able to get down turn 7, so it means that faster decks and other decks will be able to apply more tempo on you faster without you getting that taunt up. And you won't have that killer turn 7 Miracle Growth. So yeah, with that said, I really appreciate everybody hitting that like button, bonking that subscribe button, and let's get right into some juicy decks. Alright, let's talk some Druid decks. Before we get into the details of the decks, let's just go and talk about the changes and how they affect the overall art type of Ramp Druid a little bit. The overall art type of Ramp keeps basically everything that it did previously except for Miracle Growth going to 8. So I think the actual core packages of Nourish and Wild Growth, Innervate, Aquatic Form, Moonlit Guidance, all those things, I don't think that's going to change at all. It's more about the extra 5, 6, 7 cards in Druid and how you're going to win the game versus those nasty control decks that should rise in popularity post rotation, with them not losing anything and gaining an advantage with Druid getting nerfed. That was their only really truly bad matchup, and they should only get better from here on out. So how will Druid win the game going forward? Well, I have a Battlecry Ramp Druid here. We have already talked about a similar deck to this a couple weeks back. I've already made some changes. This is probably still not the perfect 30, but this is where I'll be starting Tuesday when the nerfs go live. It is very simple. You have a lot of Battlecries in your deck. You have your usual Alune and Giants and Ibis to create those big boards, but you also have a Brand Zola package where you can copy Battlecries, keep doing Battlecries, and in the late game, you can copy Bran, Alexstrasza, and Zola to create this not infinite, but a lot amount of damage going forward. And you even have Kazakus to make some big golems, little golems with lifelink to get some life back. You have Ashara to get Colossus or draw some cards and all that kind of stuff. And this is a very flexible toolbox deck, so in a lot of metas, you may play Mutanus, you may play other battle cries that are more specific to the current meta, and I think this is definitely the #1 deck that I want to try out on day 1 of nerfs. The next deck that I'd like to talk about for Druid is a super spicy one. It is Dragon Druid. I know Kazakustan's getting nerfed, but it's getting nerfed in a really creative way. It's getting nerfed in a way that is allowing Druid, or allowing decks that want to play Kazakusan, to play the way that people intended it to be played, which is Dragon decks. Now, I will say that Druid doesn't get some of the dragons I wish we would have gotten in core set, nor do we get Breath of Dreams, the Ramp with the Druid in hand, the Dragon in hand, I mean, and we don't get Emerald Explorer, we don't get any of the dragons really Druids ever had. We don't even get Best Girl Ysera, but we do have some dragons in Standard, and really the only thing holding this deck back is the quality of dragons that we have, or consistently being able to play Kazakusan. And I think this is something I want to try, but I'm not quite sure if it's going to be that great, but it looks really fun. So let's go over the dragons that we have in the deck. We have Twilight Drake. With Twilight Drake with Jerry Rig Carpenter, you're creating extra spells, extra hand size in your hand. So maybe playing Twilight Drake is reasonable. You're probably not going to get it down as much as Warlock or other classes. You know, it's probably going to be like a 4 or 5 or 4 or 6 or something like that. You also played the new Azure Drake, which is a 4 or 5 now. That's a very solid card. It goes well with stuff like Wrath. And we're playing one Onyxian Warder. You know, Onyxian Warder is good against aggro. You should have a dragon in hand most times. You can get extra dragons off Moonlit Guidance. And you're also playing Amalgam the Deep. Amalgam the Deep is something that you can play onto as a dragon. You can play in the late game to get extra dragons to allow your Kazaku-san to come online, or get you extra copies of Kazaku-san. And the final dragon we're playing is Raid Boss Onyxia. This has just been the best dragon for Ramp Druid basically ever. It does exactly what we want. Now, I don't know, maybe you can play Primordial Drake, or you can play Sleepy Dragon, or you can play a bunch of different other bigger dragons. I'm not exactly sure if those work as well as the current ones we have in the list now, but it's worth some experimentation. And, you know, this is a super mid-rangey Druid deck, and I hope it becomes a real thing. It'd be a cool unique take on Druid. But, you know, let's give it a try. Let's see. It looks pretty fun. I don't know if we have enough dragons yet for Druid for this to work, but maybe if not now, in the future, we'll get some better dragons for Druid to play. But, you know, let's see. The third deck that I have for you guys today is Celestial Druid. Now I know Celestial Druid is not necessarily the most exciting deck that people love, or, you know, most people tend to hate it going, you know, back in the old days when it was super duper popular before rotation. But with, you know, there's a little bit of a theory going around that control decks will be super popular post nerf, with the main Druids not being as popular. Well, how can we tackle control decks with Druid? Well, we can make everything cost 1 and us getting all the advantages from it. And I think that Druid could have a deck going forward involving Celestial Alignment. Now, we don't really have, you know, Survival of the Fittest or anything to really buff our minions, but we do have a lot of giants and stuff that we can play, and we still have Lady Anacondra. So what are we doing with everything costing 1? Well, first I'd like to point out that everything costing 1 means Oracle Balloon makes double copies of everything. So I think that is something we need to play around. Maybe we need to play 2 in this deck. I'm only playing 1 right now, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary, because we're going to be drawing through our deck as fast as possible. So I don't think we need absolutely 2 of them right now, but maybe we do. Escape Mana Saber is a card that entered the core set recently, and it goes incredibly well with Celestial Alignment. This is a combo that has been done in Wild, and now we can do it in Standard. You have Escape Mana Saber on the battlefield, you play Celestial Alignment, you attack, you gain a mana, you play Lady Anacondra, and you go off. It works that way. It's a really, really cool interaction, I'd say, and it may make this deck more consistent. Maybe the nerfing Kazaku-san has allowed Druid players to find better decks. Who knows? Not quite sure on that. But what are we doing once things go to 1 mana? We already mentioned a Loon, but what are we trying to copy? Well, we can still play Naga Giant for 0, and we can also play Mr. Smite for 0, and we can play Battlegrounds Battlemaster for 1 mana and send it out. It can attack twice. Not as much damage as it's supposed to be. Maybe we're supposed to be all in on Smite, but I don't think we have to. I think playing 1 Battlegrounds Battlemaster is great, because you're going to be able to play all these giants. Maybe a Raid Boss Onyxia. Maybe a Malagos to draw your whole deck and get things going. You're going to have Miracle Growth. Miracle Growth is going to be 1. It's going to cost 0 if you have Lady Contra on the field, make these giants. If you're not somebody like Warrior that has a Brawl in their hand or something like that, then you might not be able to deal with the board that you make. It's a pop-off deck. You're trying to survive until you pop off. You play the Jailbreak Carpenter to get that nourish when you need it. You still play Guff and all that kind of stuff. And I think this is probably one of the more promising options going forward for Druid. I think that finding win conditions with this deck is probably what's going to decide what to do with this deck. I'm not quite sure, but I think Giants and Battlegrounds Battlemaster and Mr. Smite is a good way to go, kind of like a mini combo deck. And yeah, that's our third deck, and we have one final deck that I'd like to talk about that's kind of interesting. I'll see you there. The final Druid deck that I have for you guys today is a super duper spicy one. It is a Primordial Naga Druid deck. This is a deck that came to me while I was trying to go to bed. I was sitting there in bed and I was thinking, Kazakhstan obviously changing is something that needed to happen. It's going to allow Ramp to do other things without just obviously playing Kazakhstan. But Miracle Growth going to 8 is that obviously it's a bad thing, but how can we make it a good thing? And I started thinking, are there things in Druid, things in the format that like big spells? And honestly, I forgot that Primordial Protector was still in the format, and I started looking at the 8 drops and the 7 drops for Primordial Protector, and man, they're really good. 8 drops, you still have a ton of things like Light Lord Ragnaros, you still have a Bombo Lieutenant, you still have the Druid 4/9 that makes 4/2s when you cast nature spells. You have a lot of things that are very relevant to a game. And 7 drops, think about this, 7 drops, you have like a lot of colossals, and when you summon a colossal off Primordial Protector, you're going to get its appendages, so you may be getting a lot of extra stuff with it, and that seems like something I really want to explore. This deck really does play that way. You play 2 Primordial Protectors, you play your normal Naga Giants, Rayboss and Nixia, stuff you've already seen. But we also play a little Naga package in there. We play Crush Claw Enforcer to try and draw the Queen of Shara or the Hedgerow. You want to draw that Hedgerow really early on so that you can use the big spells to cast with her. Maybe you don't run Oracle Balloon. Maybe you don't have to run the whole Oracle and Ibis Naga thing. Maybe you just need 2 Crush Claw Enforcers. Maybe Flipper Friends is something you want to run that add up the spells for the Hedra. But I think this is a super fun deck, something we should explore going forward. And I can't wait to try these decks out with you guys. I will be putting the deck code for all of these decks in the description below. I will be playing most of these decks on stream at High Legend if you want to check it out. So I can't wait to see you guys out. And happy diving, guys.